Buy where you can afford to buy and rent where you want to live. Hello and welcome to the second episode of my How to Buy a House series. Last week I talked about how median house prices are misleading and you can actually buy a house for around half that much. And at the end I mentioned that you don't have to live in the house you buy. It's an unorthodox way of going about things, but it's one possible strategy for getting the best of both worlds. Getting into the property market, but without fully compromising your preferred lifestyle. So what you could do is buy the cheap house, live in it long enough to qualify for the first homeowners grants, subsidies, stamp duty reductions, etc. This is usually about 6 to 12 months. Then take out some solid landlord's insurance on the place, rent it out, and then you go and live in the suburb that you want to live in. That's what I did. Lived in the first house for 2 years, then haven't lived there since. The second house we've never lived in. At the moment, we live in a modest townhouse that we rent in the inner city fringe, because at this point in our lives, being centrally located is what's most important to us. There are a lot of pros to this strategy, such as tax deductions. Say you have a $500,000 mortgage at an interest rate of 5%. That's $25,000 a year in interest alone. With rates, water, maintenance, insurance, let's say that's another $5,000. So that's a cost of $30,000 a year, not including the principal that you're paying off on your mortgage. If you live in the home you own, then that money comes out of your wages and you get nothing back at all from the taxman or tax lady. But if that property is rented to tenants, then because it is producing an income, costs associated with producing that income are tax deductible. Yes, that's right, a 30 grand tax deduction per year. Of course that doesn't mean 30 grand in your pocket. It means that you don't pay tax on 30 grand out of your total taxable income. Whereas if you lived in your property, you would. So depending on what tax bracket you're in, you might be around $8,000 better off than if you lived in the property. And of course the 30 grand worth of expenses plus the principal that you're paying off every year don't just come out of your wages. Your tenants pay rent every month, which should cover a big chunk of your mortgage. You might just have to top up a bit of it out of your wages. Then, depending on where you choose to live and what your rent costs are, you might have better cash flow for saving and investments or just enjoying life. There are cons as well, as there are in any situation. If you're renting, you can't paint the walls or fix up the place just the way you'd like it. There are also extra costs associated with having an investment property, such as a higher interest rate, rental agent fees, land tax, and a higher bill from your accountant. But these are all tax deductible as well. And if you do decide that you want to put down roots and live in your own house, then you can always do that anytime down the track. So just to summarise what we've learned in this series so far, you can buy a house for around half the median house price in your city, and you don't have to live in that house if you don't want to. But if you do want to, then that's great too. Of course, being an intelligent man or woman about town, you know that individual circumstances may vary. Please consider if general advice is right for you. Everyone's situation is unique, but we all have options, and we can all take more control in our lives if we want to. Knowledge is power, so don't just take my word for it. Seek advice from mortgage brokers, finance brokers, accountants, books, blogs, real estate agents, property investing forums. They won't all agree or say the same things, but the more strategies and ideas you can get, and the more research you do, the better prepared you will be for making the right choice for you and your life. I hope this makes you happy and excited. I don't know everything, but I know a reasonable amount, so leave any queries or comments you may have below and I'll do my best to answer them. Hit subscribe to see more, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!